Now that you know a little bit about culture and how different norms are expected of people in different cultures and also people in different statuses and situations, let's learn a little bit more about how we come to learn that culture and how we learn who we are, what our statuses are, and what's expected of us. So, throughout life, socialization shapes our personality, and at each stage there are new lessons to be learned. And so Erik Erikson laid out that what within our culture seems to be the basic stages that most people go through, and at each stage we learn things about the world around us, our society, and also about ourselves. Now, of course, there is a biological development that happens as we age, and different life stages, particularly early on, mean different physical stages. And so Jean Piaget, a French psychologist, identified cognitive stages of brain development. And so we start out as very simple brains, relatively simple abilities, and yet we are watching the world. We're learning through our senses, we're learning how to use our bodies, and we're experimenting on the world and seeing what happens. We get a little bit older, we start to be able to make logical processes, but they're very limited. We get a little bit older than that, and we can make more complex processes, but we are limited to our concrete understanding of what the world is like. We get a bit older than that, and Piaget says we come into formal operational thinking. We can think very complexly and abstractly. We can imagine hypothetical scenarios. But of course, the way we think and our ability to conceptualize different ideas changes not just based on our brain development, but also on how we interact with other people. And these stages don't always happen at the ages he predicts, and sometimes children will be better with one type of thinking than another in one subject or another. And adults don't always fully show signs of this formal operational form of abstract thinking. Vygotsky was another psychologist, and he said that our brains developed and our thinking processes develop through social development, through interaction with other people. So, of course, there are always those things that we can do comfortably, and there are those things that we can't do yet. But in between is a lot of thinking and skills and activities that we can do as long as we have someone there to guide us. And it may be those people who are guiding us, those interactions that lead us through these stages and towards more complex thinking. But what we're interested mostly here is in personality, not in the actual brain development and thinking capacity. So personality is everything that makes you, you. All of your general patterns of behavior, your attitudes, your needs, your desires, your values, just as your culture have values, you internalize some of those values. And maybe you have some of your own, things that you think are important and good and beautiful. And a lot of that is dependent on your sense of who you are, your sense of yourself. Because, of course, we recognize at some point that we have a mind, we have a conscious being, and that other people do as well, but we are distinct from them. We are something unique to ourselves. And our sense of ourselves, our self-image, guides the development of our personality, of who we think we are, and of how we interact with others. So we can see Simba in The Lion King, his glimpse of his personality. He's cocky, he's arrogant, he values being tough, he values courage. When he is in a situation, even if he feels frightened, he thinks it's important that he show courage, that he be brave. But he's also friendly and playful, and he's innocent. We see that his innocence about the world leads him into trouble sometimes. We see that he values family. He's heartbroken when his father dies. So how did Simba develop his personality? How is it that this group of men in New Orleans found that in order to impress people and be formal at a formal occasion, needed to dress and act like this, and people in Wodabi culture developed personalities in which they felt that in order to impress people and look good, they wanted to act and dress like this? It happens through socialization. the development of our personality, the taking on of our culture, and the learning about ourselves and who we are and how we're going to be through interactions with other people. We talked about nature versus nurture in terms of our biology and in terms of the difference between what we think of as a race or racial group and culture and ethnic group. And we talked about the difference between biological sex and cultural gender. But more generally, how do you think of dogs and cats? What is the nature of dogs and cats? Well, they fight, right? They hate each other. Dogs want to eat cats. Cats hate dogs. And yet, Olivia, the dog that I adopted in Mississippi, and my cat Lucky, they are best friends. And Lucky will nuzzle up to Olivia, and Olivia will lick Lucky and try and clean him, especially ever since he had puppies. He's not quite sure what to make of Lucky. He's a cat. He's not quite the same as a dog, and yet he recognizes that he's another friend. Maybe he's even something like a puppy. So how did nurture make them friends if their stereotypical, at least, nature is to be enemies? Freud, another psychologist, said that socialization and the development of our personality is the balancing of our animal drives and our human culture in which we live. So we're born with id. We're born with the basic needs and wants. We want to be comfortable, and babies start crying almost immediately outside the womb because they're uncomfortable, they're cold, they're scared, they're in pain probably. They learn how to nurse, they have hunger without being taught. And Freud says that id is a part of our personality. Id is those biological drives, that nature. He would say in some ways it's the devil on your shoulder that says, you want it, take it. Are you angry at that person? Hit them. But pretty soon we learn the superego. We learn that there are expectations outside of ourselves. And so toddlers learn no, because they've heard that they want something, but mommy or daddy says, no, you can't have it. No, you can't act like that. And toddlers themselves start saying, no, mommy. Because they've got that little angel on their shoulder that's starting to say, well, you may want these things, but you can't have them. And so over time we develop an ego, a consciousness that can sort of debate between these two desires, these two other parts of ourselves. Say, I want it, but I can't have it, so I have to do a bit of planning to get it. How am I going to get there? That is your ego that does that conscious balancing. Freud and Piaget are interested in what's happening inside of people's heads. But as sociologists, we need to look at how this happens in interaction with other people. How do we develop that idea that there are cultural expectations outside of ourselves?